I used to think of it this way, where what's the muscles, what's the function of the muscles? Well, one of the functions of the muscles is to stabilize the joint, stabilize the skeletal system. Makes sense, right? So then, hold on. If I strengthen the structures around the joint, the knee joint, it's to be stable, because that's the whole idea of that muscular system, because the hamstrings are a dynamic stabilizer, the quads are a stabilizer of the knee as well. So I just thought of it that way.
Hey there, welcome to our podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, could you please do us a solid? If you're enjoying what you hear, give us a 5-star rating and hit that subscribe button on your platform. It really helps us reach more parents, coaches, and youth in the youth athlete development scene. All right, let's get into this week's chat. All right, welcome back to episode 2 with Christian Woodford, where we dive into the importance of exposing youth athletes to a variety of movements to keep them injury-free. We also discuss the challenges of making physiological and biomechanical changes in senior athletes, and the debate between conservative versus surgical management of ACL ruptures, and why it's crucial to double down on the physical preparation after sustaining an ACL injury. After this episode 2, we do have a part 3. Make sure you keep an eye out to this one. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe and share. All right, let's go. Second part. ACL. This is more your field than anything else.
Yep.
I recently went to your presentation in regards to conservative management for ACL recovery or ruptures. Just want to quickly talk about the difference between like the surgical and the non-surgical route in terms of like what you're doing to, I guess, provide a bit more awareness and education that it's not just purely one way that you can go get back into, training and playing.
Yep. So, years ago, I started thinking to myself, so hold on. Someone's done an ACL, rupture an ACL. I get that, right? So the it's flared up, the knees are irritated. I get that. Get the swelling down. I had all these athletes start coming into Woodford going, I've ruptured my ACL. Okay, well, tell me what happened. And they'll be like, contact or non-contact, whatever it is, right? And the physio would do, or the osteo would do like a lax test. Okay, cool. I said, well, explain the whole situation, explain it out. And I said, well, do you have any swelling? No swelling. Also, I played out the game. I said, pardon? I played out the game. Well, how do you know you've done it? Well, the physio said, I heard, I got a little bit of pain, and the physio said I was lax. I said, okay, fair enough, cool. But I played out the whole game, no issue, I could change direction, everything. Okay, cool. But so you had no swelling whatsoever? No, none, okay. So you have to do pre-op strengthening anyway, because we know if you do pre-op strengthening, the time post-op surgery is minimised. We know this, right? It's also important if you're learning patterns anyway. So what I'd say to them is, anyway, I'd say I started getting to things, seeing, they're going to do pre-op strengthening anyway. Why not give it a shot to see if they're COPA? And that COPA means they can come back to sport without an ACL. Now, what happened was my first one ever was a guy came in, right? So he did a full rehab with another coach or a physio, right? And came in, and his mum heard about me. And what happened was he had 8 to 10 weeks before his grand final. A good player at a good league, right? So I did a full rehab, came back, ACL rupture, did the same knee again, came to me, right? And I said, listen, you got 8 weeks. Do you want to try this? And I started to believe this could happen, but I needed someone to buy into this to prove it first, do you want to try conservative management? He said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, non-surgical route. And he goes, can you do that? I said, hell yeah, you can do that, because I used to think of it this way, where what's the function of the muscles? Well, one of the functions of the muscles is to stabilize the joint, stabilize the skeletal system. Makes sense, right? So then, hold on. If I strengthen the structures around the joint, the knee joint, it's to be stable, because that's the whole idea of that muscular system, because the hamstrings are a dynamic stabilizer, the quads are a stabilizer of the knee as well. So I just thought of it that way. So not only I thought, okay, I'll strengthen in isolation, but then I'll develop structural stability, then I'll develop movement patterns that are functional, and then we'll transfer to athletic environment, like jumping, sprinting, change direction. And then I'll build it up over a period. So this guy came in, and I'm not joking, it was the most rare, it freaked me out how, and by the way, he just had an ACL rupture, no meniscus. I think it was a bit of a lateral sprain, but it was like a low grade. He had a PCL intact. It was mainly structurally, if you're just ACL rupture and only ACL rupture, you're pretty structurally strong, really. I've had a guy who had no PCL, no ACL, lateral grade 3, medial grade 3, and I tried because he had a grand final. I tried it. I said, mate, the chance of this happening is slim to none. No meniscus damage. If you have meniscus damage, 2 types of meniscus. One that can heal, the other one can't heal. The one that can't heal, not enough blood flow. It's internally, too internally. The one on the outside, externally, on the perimeter of it, or if it's a bucket handle tear, you pretty much have to have surgery, because you can't lock. It's weird. You can't lock it out, too much pain. So that depends as well. But generally speaking, if you just have an ACL rupture, this guy just had an ACL rupture. And when he walked in, I said, how do you feel? He goes, yeah, I'm fine. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I feel fine. I can jump, everything. So we started exposing him to what we need to expose him to. And then I started realising that this is possible. I was freaking out halfway through because in my mind, I used to always think ACL rupture surgery straight away. I was like everyone else. But then I started coaching, and this is when I started getting to the rehab market because I do a lot of a shitload of hamstrings, lower back, ACLs, anything to do with the knee, shoulders. Like I do a lot of all that stuff. But that's how I started understanding how fucked our rehab market is and what we, how we look at rehab in general in Australia in the private sector and pro sport. So looking at that, I kind of started realising how simple rehab should be, but we make it like this mythological creature that it's so different from normal training when it doesn't have to be, because rehab is just normal training in the presence of injury. And you're starting at a low level, building up and exposing the body to what it needs to expose to. So kind of what I started realising about this guy is I could get him back to sport because he started, and all I started with was a gradual progression. When he went back to football, do you know what he did? Straight line work, non-contact. Then he went from that to change direction, closed, non-contact. Then, and you see what I did? I was building up all the capacities, the strength, the power, the speed, the conditioning, the structural stability through what he needed to make his knee stronger. And what ended up happening was coming back playing, and he still to this day is 7 years later, 8 years later, playing high level football. He actually won the league medal, best in the league. Yeah. Got no ACL. And this is but by the way, that just so you guys know, he's doubled down on strength. You have to if you're not gonna get surgery, regardless, once you rupture ACL, you've got to double down on exercise-based rehab or strengthening, because if you don't, you're load compromised, you're going to switch off, you're stuffed. And you know what's funny? Every time he goes away from his strength work, he says to me he feels unstable. Every time he goes back to it, he feels fine. So he's got no issue with it. He talked to my ACL workshop, as you know, and I've done this, and I've recently just done it again with his girlfriend, who, by the way, ruptured her ACL on the dance floor. Hilarious. But I did it with his girlfriend as well. So she's come back to sport and she's fine too. And I've done it a lot of times. And what I'm starting to see now is massive, a lot more athletes should be copers, should try it. One, you save a lot of money. Two, a lot of time and effort as well. So that's where I believe it's going at the moment, is that conservative management route. Not many people are doing it though.
Yeah, and we're also seeing the rise in ACLs.
Well, that's another thing. So here's another thing. Is surgery the best option now? Listen, do you know what insanity is? Doing the same thing, expecting a different result. But do you know who wins out of it? The surgeons. And do you know why the surgeons win out of it?
Medical field, yeah.
Medical field. But it's true, though. And the reason why they win out of it is because they'll have an orthopedic group, and the group involves physios. And it's just like this. It goes around in a circle. And no offense to any physios, most of them don't have a background in S&C. They don't. Plain and simple. They don't have a background in it. And if they do, it's so low level, they should not be taking. They might be able to take. They're good at. I guess they're good at diagnosing and early stage treatment, but we can do that even better because it's just low level exercise selection and progression. And we know that. But let's say they do that, right? The issue with them is they hold them way too long. Why? It's money. And that's the issue, bro, with the private sector. Because when there's money involved, people want to hold them. And who the person who doesn't get the right outcome is the patient, the client, the athlete. But I'm telling you right now, man, what I'm seeing right now is huge. One, ACL, for me, ACLs are coming thick and thin, straight through the doors. But how we do things is, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'll tell you what, we've got a 99% success rate. I've seen a lot of them in my time because I take them on board, and I'm like, well, if I take you on board, I'm invested. So they're invested with us. So for me, it's like I put my whole brand on the line with this because I want them to come back successfully. And am I saying it's perfect? No, but at the same time, we want to tick as many boxes as possible with high quality, and then hope. Pretty much not pray, but hope that they can't come out of it unscathed. There's always a chance that it could, they could re-rupture. Always a chance with anything. Even when they have surgery, it's always a chance. But at the same time, if you tick more boxes, the chance of re-injury or injury is minimised, and that's what we do at Woodford. So, but there's a lot of, listen, man, ACL injuries, massive business, $billion industry. We per capita, we have the most ACL ruptures in sport in the world.
Yeah, and we've actually tracked it over 20 years over I think there was a research piece I looked at about a month ago. Last 20 years, we've seen a massive spike. It's just like compound interest. It actually gets worse and worse. And especially as we got female sports coming into play now.
Oh, mate, don't start me on that. That's a whole nother
I'll save you that for today.
Yeah.
So from the female perspective, we're to some degree almost doubling participation in a lot of sports. So therefore we're actually going to increase the rate. So
yeah.
And then we also got to talk about from the physical development side, and which we actually won't talk about because I know you can go for hours on this one. But the side that you mentioned before is post-operative, but also it becomes lifelong. Why is it actually lifelong in terms of actually maintaining the strength and conditioning?
What you talk about in terms of post, but if you do conservative management or
doesn't matter.
Post-op, doesn't really matter. It wouldn't matter either way. So just so you guys know, if you decide to go the conservative management route or you go the surgery route, it wouldn't matter. You have to double down on the physical preparation, strength and conditioning for the rest of your life. The reason why is because neuromuscularly will switch off. If you're not doubling down on it, you will have issues because you are load compromised. Once you rupture your ACL once, you've compromised your structures in some way, and that's where it's always going to be weaker or have an issue unless you double down on this stuff in the gym and the field. It's critical. Preparation, preparing to perform at your sport is critical. And in Australia, and I talked about this at the start. It's still permeated that all Okay, put it this way. Let's say, for example, you play sport, right? Regardless, whatever level, right? I don't care what level, even if it's just recreational, right? Let's say you do get injured. Let's say ACL, worst case scenario, you're playing netball and you're just playing at a low grade. Let's say you do rupture ACL. Well, the time that you have to take off if you do get surgery or rehab or whatever is massive. So if you are going to play sport in any country of the world, wouldn't you think you want to prepare properly? Let's even forget about performance. The number one thing you want to prepare for is injury prevention. Because if you get injured, think about the issue at work. You're going to take time off work because let's say it's a shoulder or a leg or whatever it is. And obviously you can't prevent contact-based injuries, but non-contact injuries you can prevent mostly, well, 99% of them. But let's say, for example, that you do get injured, that's time away from work. That's time away from your income. So if you are going to play sport, in my opinion, even if it's once per week, you should be doing preparation on the outside of your sport to maximise, obviously, sport performance. But the number one thing is prevention is the best cure. So if you keep your best players on the park or the field or the court, you're going to win games. But if you stay healthy, you're going to feel better in your mental health, but you're not going to get injured. The chance of injury is less. So I just look at it that way. Even as recreational, you should be doing it as well because people say, oh, don't you think only pro or semi-pro or people take it seriously should do it? Well, no, because I look at it like this. If you get injured, you're going to take time away from work. You could be in a fair bit of trouble with your boss. You might lose your, whatever it is. Wouldn't you want to prepare to make sure you're not getting injured? But moreover, I think I'm one of those people who want to hit the most out of myself. So I'll do it regardless because I've got an ego and I want to perform well. And I hate losing. So I don't know. People weird like that. It's like, oh, I'm just going to play like off the cuff game, but I haven't done any training in 5 years.
I love the fathers games, the father footy games. Oh man, they're the best for the wrong reasons.
It is funny, but to think that people want to do that. Mate, you can get bad injuries. I've seen real bad injuries in those fathers games, just hamstrings mainly, but bad hamstrings, bro. Most of these blokes are deconditioned. Like I remember I played my old man. What the fuck is funny? We played my old man under 15s and he pulled a hamstring. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And back then, obviously, I was 15, so I was like, I laughed at the whole thing. Now I look back on it now, like how stupid are those guys? They don't do any prep, man. None.
And the funniest is, I don't know if you've seen this, like all the fantasy draft stuff. You know how they select their orders? They put them through the combine.
Yeah.
They do the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
And they do it on the beach as well. And we're just like, you just see like someone's been shot in the hamstring.
Yeah. They fall over. I think a big thing by doing it on the beach as well, you got to remember it's going to slow it down because it's got sands on a hard ground. That's a benefit of it. But at the same time, you're still going to get some speed up. Listen, I could go on for what I think about how many people do actual speed work. And when I say proper speed work, maximum efforts, long recoveries, doing it when you're fresh. Most people have never sprinted for so long. And we know we sprint a speed retention 7 days. They go from doing zero to straight to max V work or something over 40 meters where their trunks might be more hamstring dominant. And they haven't done that in so long. They're going to do their hamstring straight away. It's like guaranteed for most people. Perfect example is for me. I hadn't done any max V work for ages. I remember what happened was I had a client and for some reason, I can't remember what I was doing, but he was sprinting and he goes, can you come with me? And I started doing it with him. And then what I did was because I hadn't pushed myself past that 95% for a while and given a maximal effort, my body wasn't exposed to that stress, and nothing can stress your body out, your nervous system in terms of motor unit recruitment, in terms of muscular system, nothing, especially hamstring recruitment as well, taxing your hamstrings, like pure sprinting. And that's one thing I've learned is as you get older, you need to sprint. That's one big tip I'm giving to you guys. And when I say sprint, you don't need to do it much. You can do it like maybe twice, I'd say once a week, and you can microdose it. Like do 2-3 efforts, but as long as you're building it up slowly, the meterage, and you don't just start 0 to doing 100 meters, you're fine. Start acceleration, which is more quad glute dominant, and as we build up, you can slowly condition the hamstrings for that maximal effort. But there's also another thing about that is you can actually do max V if you just pull the speed back. I know it's not pure speed work, but you understand the shapes and positions and a slower velocity and less chance of hamstring injury due to less exposure of velocity on the hamstrings. But it's a little tip for you guys that I've learned is do speed work or like always do speed work.
All year round.
I just reckon you should do it all year round. That's my opinion. Man, I'm back on the track now with my spikes. And with my missus, and I'm actually enjoying it again. It's fucking funny. She's actually not bad. She's pretty good. Like we just go to the track, and what we do is we'll do like a roll, a mobility, an activate, like a form run, and then we do our jumps or plyos, and then we just go on a speed work. Generally takes about 40 minutes, and short, sharp. We do it twice a week.
Yeah, that's what I did during COVID as well. I think I did two sessions a week. I did one. One was more acceleration based.
Yep.
A little bit of change of direction. Then the other one was more top speed.
Perfect. That's what we do.
35 minutes.
That's what we do. We literally do the same thing. I mean, it's just simple. But most people think, you got to remember, bro, this goes back to our first point, talking about middle ground, like that no man's land. People just want to train that ground. But you should see how many efforts I do. I get my heart rate right down. For everyone out there, to do pure speed work, you have to, it's not conditioning, so you shouldn't get your heart rate. You should drop your heart rate right down so it's more alactic. We want to make sure we have full recoveries, maximum effort, so the output's high, but also with speed work, technical proficiency is everything. So that's why you never want to do it after you do anything, after you do like a lift or something. You should always do it before anything if you're doing lift or conditioning. Always do it first. So I would literally do one effort, and because my work capacity is so bad, I take 7 minutes to recover. And literally, because I'm not going to do, if I'm doing it, it's about quality. So for everyone out there, if you're doing a speed or a jumps or plyo session, you should be just as fresh at the end as you are at the start. That's not to say you're going to be fully, like, obviously you're going to give a maximum effort, but you should be just as fresh. You shouldn't be leaving it like a conditioning session fucked. But saying that though, because my work capacity is so bad, I just blew up. So all I did was like 2 efforts. And then all I'm going to do is build my efforts up. One thing I do need to improve is my work capacity. And this is why aerobic capacity is very important. Why? You can do more work at high intensity, but it's important. But you've got to build up slowly.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you did. You build up slowly, I'm sure. And it's just you know what? It's using common sense.
Yeah. Slowly build.
Common sense. Build that load slow, build that exposure slowly.
Yeah. I guess any key points that would be worthwhile for someone who may be going through the ACL, where they're contemplating whether getting surgery or going the conservative management side. What would be some like key points for them?
Some key points. First of all, get yourself a good team around you in terms of if you know, I'd get like a good allied health practitioner, someone who actually understands integration between pathology and performance, so physio, osteo, whatever, chiro, and care. Someone who's good at it, doesn't really matter. Then get a good coach in terms of rehab, in terms of understanding exercise-based rehab and understanding athletic development. Also get involved your coach in terms of your head coach, so they understand it. Your parents, whoever it is, have a support team around you. I think that's a big one. And also use it as a time. My second point would be use it as a time to work on. Don't think of it as a negative thing. Look, change your mindset. Okay, stop. You need to, obviously, like the first day, yeah, you're upset. I get that. But you have to move on quick because that's how life is. You know, I've realized with life, you can't sit back and complain what's happened. What's done is done. Move forward and learn from the lesson. That's a good lesson for me. All the time is just move forward. We call it windscreen wipers. You know, wipe the window, move forward. I think one big thing is too many people, you know, they have a pity party about themselves. Oh, what happened to me? Well, so be it. It's happened to you. Move on. That's the first point. The second point is use the time to work on your weaknesses physically, or work on other areas of your game that you might not have the time to work on because you were at training or whatever. You were injury free. So now's the time you can work on the other areas that you need to work on physically. Work on it so when you do come back, you're bigger, stronger, faster, more efficient than you before, and you're better at the sport. So you need to change your thinking from poor me. Oh, why'd it happen to me? I can't, I'm going through this process now, what do I need, like I'm so sad, to change it to no. Use it as a way, use it as, a blessing in disguise to get better. Work on your weaknesses physically, mentally, whatever it is, and become better when you come back. That's where you need to change. They're the 2 big tips I can give. And the third, I'll give you one more tip. One more tip is don't rush the process. Take your time. Don't think that it's tick boxes, criteria, move to each stage, but at the same time, don't rush it. Don't rush the process. Take your time with it, and make sure this only happens once, because I've worked with athletes that have done it 3, 4, 5 times. And trust me, by that stage, it's pretty much too late. Because you're mentally, it's a mental game as well. Not just physical, rehab's not just physical, it's all psychological as well. Half it's psychological, half it's physical. And that's one part that most people don't understand. It's not just about learning about the physical side of it, it's learning the psychological side and being able to communicate and get the most out of them when they're psychologically they're in the best headspace. Cool.
All right. That was really good. Sweet. Let's move on to topic number 3. So,
keep an eye out on the second installment of our conversation. If you want to stay updated on the latest episodes, make sure to subscribe to Inner Athlete on both YouTube and Spotify.